Welcome to Fax Online Business Solutions. This is Jill. How may I direct your call?
Welcome to Fax Online Business Solutions. This is Diane. How may I direct your call?
Ah, the voices of fax. Hundreds of times a day, thousands of times a month, over 1 million times each year, the phone's been answered, "Welcome to fax," for more than 20 years.
When we first got started, we moved into this office building and we got a phone system. And we bought the phone system at a yard sale. And we got this phone system in place and all set up and everything. And the bells didn't work, so there was no ring to the telephone. And Libby would come in the office, and you'll have to ask Libby whether she just every 60 seconds picked up the phone to see if someone was there, or the light went on, but the bell didn't work. And I remember Libby would pick up the phone and she'd say, "Good morning, fax management. How may I direct your call?" And then she would say, "Oh, I can help you with that." Well, duh, she was the only person in the building.
From the basement of the Byrnes home to 56th and O, Fax Management Company grew from serving a single Catholic school in Grand Island, Nebraska, to helping hundreds of thousands of students and families afford the education they were seeking.
As I look at the plight that Catholic schools are in all over the nation, and we're still taking a beating in so many areas, you see Catholic schools close, it's all about how they're running the business of the schools. I would submit to you, very few schools have closed because of what's happening in the classroom. But how the business is being managed has everything to do with those tough decisions that are being made. So we need good business practices, and we need good people as part of the enterprise to make sure that we're protecting that aspect of the schools. When they're run well, schools flourish. So to bring a company like Fax in and to have Dave help us with that adds real value, because tuition collection is the largest piece of the cash into the building of the school. And to be able to make sure that that's run in an efficient way is important to us. Fax is invaluable that way.
Fax brought good business management practices to Catholic schools. It gave them a great deal of assistance in being able to project income on a monthly basis during the course of the year. It allowed them to budget wisely in terms of what their income would be in coming in versus their expenses. It made them realize the importance of collecting close to 100% tuition from every family that was enrolled in the school. Made tremendous contributions. It made tremendous contributions to the National Catholic Educational Association. I think that our Fax is recognized as the leading industry supporter of Catholic schools and good financial management practices.
In 1995, we got into the program after the semester had started, and we did a test case with a dozen students in 1995. 1996, we went full tilt, and we were about 850 students, not quite $400,000 in tuition deferments. The latest data now is that we have $4.9 million in deferred tuition right now at the school, serving 5,225 students. So it's quite significant. Now, over the span of time, more than $51 million in tuition deferments have gone through the Fax program at Prince George's Community College.
Today, Fax is a high-tech company with millions of dollars electronically flowing between accounts and everything done by computer. But it wasn't always that way.
When making changes here, we would take changes on the change of status forms similar to what we have now, and we had them in a file by category, and then it would be sent to downtown, and data entry downtown when they were at 12th and K would input the change down there. So we had really, for the most part, when I first started and for a while after I started, we had no computerization at all. We had a memory typewriter, and that was about, and then the copier, and that was about this computer as we got.
Actually, when we started, we wrote the data to a tape and walked the tape over to NBC Bank, and then from there we got really sophisticated and did a dial-up communication.
How fast was that?
I think it was probably 4,800 baud to start with, and then it went to 96, and then 14.4, and then we went to the web. But before we went to the web, we were, you know, the communications process took, I think 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours. And if that telephone line connection dropped during that time frame, you had the chance to start all over again. So
I thought of the paradigm of pencil and paper paradigm. And our institutions basically were looking at the tuition side of things, the business side of the operation, in terms of that paradigm. Principals and people who volunteered to help at the school level had little notebooks, and they kept track of who paid and who didn't, and who did you have to run after and chase for the tuition payments. And I believe that through fax, that they brought us out of that pencil and paper paradigm into an era in the 21st century that's technologically sound, that has given us a solid basis for strengthening the financial side of the operation. And while a business education, we have to be about the mission of that educational endeavor, we also had to pay attention to the business side of it. And I believe that through the work of fax, we've been very faithful to strengthening the structures that enable us to do the business side much better than we had been doing it before.
As the company grew, so did the impact the service and people had on the schools.
It's made the administration of schools, it's made the administrators' life a lot easier. Getting them out of the collection business, out of the confrontational business, and letting them do what they do best, letting them educate children. And some of the stories, I will say that Yvonne Toro, about 3 years ago, I had an email from her around Christmas time from St. Andrews in Orlando. And I said, "How's our program working?" And she said, "Merry Christmas to you, fax saved my school."
I know for a fact that with the budgets of Catholic schools as tight as they are, how important it is that they collect all of the tuition that's budgeted. And a lot of times that's very, very hard to do when you've got, you know, somebody in the office who is answering the phones, who's doing all kinds of other clerical duties, and then they're expected to collect the tuition and send out the notices and all that. And a lot of times I think it, you know, without the services of fax, that these schools would just lose a lot of money in uncollected tuition. And I can speak to that for a personal example. I serve on the board of a Catholic high school in suburban Maryland, and I remember several years ago, fax did a very effective presentation to the school, to the board, and particularly the finance committee, which recommended to the board that we hire fax. We had a report a year later and how much money we had collected in terms of tuition, which we had not collected before, because we were trying to do it sort of like the shoebox under the bed kind of way. So I think it's helped keep Catholic schools. It certainly has helped that particular school. I know that from personal experience.
The school was struggling financially, and it was I would call it more or less a farming community, which meant that even though there was money available for tuition assistance, oftentimes families wouldn't ask because it was way too personal. By using fax, it brought it out of that kind of personal level into a more global or less personal level. And then as a result, there were less hard feelings when the tuition came from a company tuition collection came from a company than from the business manager of the school.
There's something that happened to me with a school in Los Angeles, an inner city school, Manchester in Maine, inner city. A pastor called me and the archdiocese announced they were going to close the school. I went to the school. We had an administrator that was a weak administrator. She had a heart for the students, but just couldn't do anything. The school was in shambles. It was dirty. So I met with the pastor and I told him, and this was in the early days, I think it was 1991 or 92. We didn't have many schools. So I told him, if you'll do what I share with you, we can turn this thing around. And when I showed him how to set a budget up, and then we started setting policies, well, most of our families weren't paying. Right out the gate, we lost 50% of our families because they wouldn't pay. So I said, that's great, because now we have paying families. Some of those families that wanted their students there couldn't pay, but they did have skills, so they started painting the schools. I showed them how to get free paint from paint company. And so we revamped the school. We started having a bright school. Cut a long story short, in about 3 years, we turned the school around. Enrollment started going up. And the reason this story means so much to me, I was walking, their playground was a parking lot for the church that someone had come in and painted the basketball things on. I was walking across that one day when the recess bell rang. And a little boy about 3.5 feet tall ran up to me. Now this is an inner city school, hugged me around the leg and said, "Mr. Ruby, we love you. Thanks for saving the school." When I left and went back to the car, I had tears running down. Marge was sitting in the car. And I said, that's facts. That's what we are about. And for me, that's what set the tone for the whole school, or the whole business. That's what facts did.
The story of FACTS is one that includes people, a dedicated staff serving schools, the students and families at the schools, providing the best personal customer service possible.
A lot of them wouldn't be in business if they didn't use our program today. So that had a huge impact on our schools and the way, I think he's changed it's almost like a paradigm shift in everything he's done. He's changed the way we collect tuition in the United States, and the schools are very thankful for that.
I think the customer service is the one thing that always excited me here at FACTS. I think there is nobody that does it better, and I think it starts with, I can remember a little story that David did with me. When I first started in the college market, I was really wanting to make sure everything was going well, and I was comparing some numbers, and I was thinking, maybe we're spending too much on different things. And so I sat down and I talked to David, and I said, I'm worried about the numbers here, and I was showing it to him, and he goes, Cindy, it's important to look at the numbers, but what I have learned over the years is if you look at the numbers too close, you're not paying attention to what you really need to do, and that's the customer service. If you do the customer service, the numbers will follow.
Howard Richmond from Baltimore, I think he referred to us. I think it was either the Nordstroms of education or the famous hotel chain that was famous for customer service. But we are the Cadillac premier provider of tuition management services for faith-based education.
Words escape me. These are the most phenomenal people you will ever meet. They have hearts bigger than anyone I know, and they love to serve each other, and they love to serve their customers, and they do selfless acts day in and day out. And I just don't know how you put into words how special they are. It really is indescribable.
Co-founder, president, and CEO David Byrnes has led FACTS from the beginning, and in the process he has touched many lives in the schools and among the staff.
David just going out and visiting our schools, it's amazing when he'll go and stop in at a school and they'll go, "Gosh, David Byrnes was here today." You know, sometimes you'll get a call. They didn't call about making a change or anything. They'll just say, wow, David Byrnes and that guy, you know, our VP, a lot of times. So they remember, no offense, but they remember that he, you know, stopped in and just because he cared to see how the school was doing, and it makes a huge impact.
David had a vision, and a vision that I bought into about 16 years ago. A vision that was very close to what my background from banking and the insurance business, understanding the method of collection that David was attempting to put in place, was close to my heart, and I knew it would work. And so when I met David, he impressed me as a person who believed in the vision and would do what it would take to make it work.
People at the ground level at FACS don't just get that way by happenstance. It goes to the leadership of the company, and it goes back to David, that David has set the climate where people who work for him and with him understand that it's about service and it's about the individual, and that's what matters most. And so service, that hallmark of service, is coming through, obviously, in these stories that the principal shared with me.
I think when I started working at FACS, probably my faith wasn't as strong as it is now. So I think not only David, but Libby and Stan and Ta all have helped me on a new spiritual journey that hopefully I can be a good compass with.
FACS has been Camelot. It's very seldom that you're able to find a group of people you love to work with, love the people you're working for, and make money along the way that you don't have to worry about paying your bills and have a little bit of a lifestyle.
FACS Management Company, serving schools, colleges, students, families, and touching lives in many ways in the process, both inside and outside the company. Our story wouldn't be complete if we didn't consider the man who helped establish the company and lead it through more than 20 years. David Byrnes has left an impact on all those who have known him, have worked with him, have been served by him. But just how do you describe David? It's not easy.
And you think about Byrnes and what's going on. It's not appropriate to describe our relationship and how I've known David with a series of B words, seeing as how his last names begin with a B. And back in college, of course, the most important B word back then was probably beer.
He's a marvelous man. I think the world of him, and I respect him more than he'll ever know.
Ethical leader.
Business became big business.
Well, if I had to describe David in one word, I would say genuine. I would also, though, even more importantly to me, I'd describe him as a friend.
And the first one that comes to mind is a man of integrity. Is always willing to put himself on the line, and I always felt that he was true, that what he said to you, you could count on. The second term that I would use, or the way to describe him, would be to say that he's very human. He understands the human condition, and he sees himself as a player, a very important player in terms of helping the human condition, helping individuals to be in a better place.
One word for David, focus.
With a motto of the better way. The better way worked.
Integrity. I've sold schools on David Byrnes' word. That's better than a contract.
Well, I have to do a golf analogy because we play golf, but you know, I'd call him Tiger, because if Dave's ever down by 2 strokes and he needs to make a putt, he will always make the putt. And he's such a competitor that if he's ever got you down by 2 strokes, he will always make the putt to put you away. So, you know, that's kind of the fun thing, but I'd say if I had to boil David Byrnes down into one word, it'd be friend, because he's a close friend.
It couldn't be one word. It would have to be several words, but I would call him a gentle bear. He's a big guy. I think if someone didn't really know him and they see him coming in, they think, oh, they're going to come in and, you know, sell us a bill of goods. But I think they find out that he really is a gentle guy.
Talk about a B word turned into a billion-dollar business.
And I would say that, you know, he's a great Christian. He's humble. He's has an integrity. He's ethical. He's fair. He's a leader, but he's a servant. He is an entrepreneur. And I thought, well, how do you describe that in one word? And there really isn't one good word. But I thought of the word compass, because I think you have to be going in the right direction to be successful at all of those.
Yoda. And if you don't know who Yoda is a character in Star Wars. He's kind of a small, greenish, long-eared character. That part doesn't remind me of David, but Yoda was an amazing teacher, the ultimate teacher of doing things the right way. And for facts, David was the ultimate teacher of doing things the better way.
I think if I were to describe David in one word, it would be caring.
I have David as principled. That's how I describe him. Now, if I wanted to broaden that beyond being very principled, he's a people-type person. He wants things done the right way, emphasis on the right way. He delivers what he says he's going to deliver when he says he's going to deliver it. And you can see this throughout the whole organization.
He's a very compassionate, family-oriented man, and partly because he has a beautiful wife and family, especially with Libby, who has stood by him all those years. But honesty is the first word that comes to mind. It was the most important in the way he ran his company. Do what is right for not only us, the employees, but especially for the customers.
Belief in the Lord. Without all of that, none of this would have happened. So I think that's probably the most important premise that we based our company on. So I'm glad to call David my best friend, and my prayer for him is very simple. Be happy, be peaceful at heart, be healthy, believe, VTL.
Whether it's compass, marvelous integrity, or best friend, David Byrnes has been a true leader, preaching and living by his mantra, do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do. Congratulations, David, on a job well done. You've given us a solid foundation of a company, and our pledge to you is that these people, the Fax family, will continue to serve our customers for many years to come.